Here you go.
Okay, well, we talked at length about communication, about relationships, about friendship, and about becoming a total person, using that spice analogy. And now what we're going to do is we're going to talk about dating. So if we could have our kids come up and sit down, and what we're going to do is we're going to do an informal voting. Okay, so I'm going to ask a series of questions. And what I want you to do is, if you agree, if you think the answer is yes, I want you to stand up. Okay, if you think the answer is no, just stay in your seats. And if you're not quite sure, then just kind of stand up a little bit, but not all the way. Okay, so here we go. The first question is, do you believe that two people really can fall in love at first sight? Okay, so, a little bit of uncertainty there. Okay, yeah, and there might be a difference between falling in love and actually what happens after that. But, initially falling in love, maybe that is the case. I know it was with me and my wife. Okay, here's another question. Single dating is the best way to get to know people of the opposite sex. Single dating is the best way.
Yep.
Okay, no? Yeah. Okay, next question. Steady dating is a natural step to a lifetime commitment in marriage. No? Okay, it usually takes some time to get to know someone's beliefs and values about life. Okay. Next question. Dating in high school is absolutely necessary to being happy. No? Well, I agree with you there, because I didn't even date in high school, and I would have been very unhappy if that was a requirement. But sometimes just being in a group of people and having fun is all you really need out of high school. That's how I felt. Okay, steady dating limits friendships with others. Okay, wonderful. Okay, so let me ask you guys this question. What is dating for? What is the purpose of dating?
Get to know somebody?
Get to know somebody? Okay. Is it to have fun?
Yeah.
To some extent it's to have fun, but there's a lot of ways you can have fun, but you have to do it in appropriate ways. But it gives you a chance to get to know people. So do you think that when a person gets to be your age, 7th and 8th grade, are they ready to go right into marriage?
No.
No? So there's some steps that go in between that, right?
Yeah, a lot of years in age, I would hope.
Yeah, at least in our society, it's funny that in some cultures, they did get married at a very young age. But, and there's, how many of your parents are actually going to arrange your marriages?
I hope
Hope not? Okay, but in some cultures, that's the norm, is that other people would basically tell you who your spouse is going to be. So, not all cultures engage in dating, but we want to go through some steps to dating. So what we're going to do here is, Susan, I'll have you come up since you've got the cards here. And Susan is going to pretend that she's several of our teenagers, that she's bringing up the cards and putting them on the blocks here. Okay? So let's see. We've got 6 different cards, and each of these cards has a definition on it. And what we want to do is have these teenagers, these 6 teenagers here that we're pretending are going to come up and put a card on the appropriate definition. So the first card should be the definition for same-sex friends. Okay, so of our 6 teenagers, let's see. What do you guys think is the definition for same-sex friends? Okay, you can put it up there now. Okay, learn what it means to be a genuine friend. That's correct. One of the things that Jesus himself said is, I no longer call you servants, but friends. So even becoming friends with God is something that's very important. And I know that myself, when I started making friends early in my life, it taught me how to be a good friend and what to expect in a friend. It taught me how to share. It taught me how to get involved in activities with other people and to be unselfish. So it's very important as we begin our quest to be married that we understand what it means to be a friend first and foremost. Okay? So of the 5 teenagers that are left, what is the definition for opposite sex friends? What is the idea behind that? Why do we... Okay. Yes. Learn to have fun with and appreciate the opposite sex. I grew up in a household of boys. My mom was the only woman, and I felt kind of sorry for her because when you're surrounded with 4 guys, and there wasn't a lot of female presence. And it was funny because when I was young, I was absolutely petrified of girls because I didn't even know what they were. I was never around them. So it was really nice when I was in high school and I was on a cross-country team where there was boys and girls, and it was a wonderful, wonderful opportunity for me to get together with people of the opposite sex and really understand what some of those differences are between males and females. Okay? So the next item is friendly dating. Let's see what we have for friendly dating. What is the purpose of friendly dating? Okay, help shape our ideal image of our future spouse. Now, when I asked my wife about her dating experience, she said that she literally had a hoop box and she had pictures and everything of what she wanted in a wedding, and she had a list of qualities that she wanted in a spouse. Now, unfortunately, I didn't have that, but I think in the back of my mind, I kind of did. I kind of, from those friendships I had with people from the opposite sex, I had an idea that this is the kind of person that I wanted to be with for the rest of my life. And I can honestly look at some of the people that I dated, and then I look at my wife and I see how she has more of those qualities that I found than any of the other people. So it's very important as you're dating to have a lot of friendly dating, not to do it exclusively, so that you can kind of see what some of those things are that you want in your future spouse. Okay, so now we're going to look at steps 4, 5, and 6, and Susan's going to lead us through those steps.
Okay, well, yeah, let's take a look at step number 4. If we look here, we can see that its definition is serious, steady relationship. Now, who has the card for that? John? Want to put it up there? Right. What kind of spouse would he or she be? What we're doing there is we're kind of looking at whether or not this person that we are dating is exactly the kind of person that we think we could make our future spouse. Okay? So that's correct. And you have to make sure that when you get to a point where you're considering serious, steady dating, that you're ready. That's not the kind of thing that you do until you're ready. There's a good time for that. And you have to be at a certain point. You have to be mature enough to consider a steady dating relationship. And that's really the time when you're starting to look at, very seriously, what kind of person would this make as my spouse? So that's a very serious time in your life, very important time. Okay, now the next one would be engagement. Let's take a look at that. John's got the card for that. Yeah, decided to be emotionally, psychologically, and spiritually bonded to someone. Okay? So this is a time in your life where you're actually deciding, yeah, this is the person that I really want to spend the rest of my life with. And you're making a serious commitment at this time to this person, saying, you're probably getting to the point where you're considering a wedding, you might be planning your wedding, but you're still very much in a phase where you're seeking information about the other person, you're talking to your family, you're still getting input from a variety of sources, just to try to straighten out in your own mind whether this person is truly the right person for you. And step number 6 is marriage. Okay, right. That's probably the easiest one because we've seen this definition before a lot. Full, free, faithful, forever, and fruitful. Okay, this step is really the most important one because at this point, we need to be fully developed as people. If you remember the spice flower, how we have all the different elements of our personality and we fully developed each one of those. We are now fully acquainted with ourselves, we know ourselves very well, and we're to the point where we can actually match our spice flower with the spice flower of a person of the opposite sex. And meeting those together, we can say that we are 2 fully developed individuals that can make this kind of decision because it's a very, very important decision to be able to make. Now, the one thing that's different about marriage, that's different from all these other steps, is there's a specific kind of bonding that happens in marriage. Do any of you know what that kind of bonding might be? It's different from any of the other kind of bonding. It's different from emotional, psychological, or spiritual bonding. This takes a step further. Anybody? No? Okay, this is physical bonding, okay? Which is the bonding that occurs in the marital relationship, okay? This is what we call making love with our spouse, having sex, engaging in that sexual relationship which cements the bond between husband and wife, and also, we know, has the capacity to bring new life into the world. And we all know that you can't give what you don't got, right? So unless you are a fully developed person and you're fully in control of who you are and what your values and beliefs are, who you're looking for, how can you possibly engage in rearing another individual responsibly when you're not truly mature yourself? And so this is the reason why we absolutely must reserve the physical relationship for the sacrament of marriage, for within the marital bond. Well, I mean, can you believe that all this actually started down here with step one, with learning to be just a good friend? But it actually did. That's where we start. We start with learning what it means to be a good friend in a same-sex relationship. So it starts very young, because we're very young and we develop friends. But it's more than just being a friend, it's being a genuine friend. What does that mean? And then we have a progression all the way up through marriage. Now, it's important to remember that you can't say, okay, at age 7, I learned to be what it means to be a genuine friend, and at age 20, I will know how to shape my ideal image of my future spouse. It doesn't happen like that. Sometimes it does. But what matters is not necessarily what age you are, but what experiences you've had and what you understand about yourself. Okay, that's the most critical thing. Some people may have a lot of different experiences in life and they may mature a lot more quickly than others. So does this mean that someone who's 18 could never know what kind of spouse another person could be? No, it depends on what your background is. But you have to know yourself very well, and that's why it's important to keep those lines of communication open with members of your family and other people that know you. All right, at this point, let's take a look at page 23 in your booklets. It's called Dating, Not One Giant Leap, but a Lot of Smaller Important Steps. And I want you to take a few minutes and very carefully go through these questions together. As you can see, the first one is, what step are you on now? So teens, I want you to talk with your parents together, and I want you and your parents together to decide where you are approximately. What step are you on at this point? And teens, I want to encourage you to listen to your parents, because remember, your parents probably know you better than anyone else, and they're going to have a lot of vital input to give you. Okay, so keep an open mind and really listen to what your parents are telling you. And also, I want you to look at when you will know that you will be ready for the next step. Now, think about these carefully. Don't answer them or move on to the next one. Don't feel pressure to move on to the next one until you've truly finished and you're happy with your response to the question before. So let's take a few minutes now and complete these 1 through 4. Okay, well, we've gotten through those. Let's take a look now at question number 2. I'm going to read that one for us. What qualities will you look for in a person that you would like to date? Okay, parents and teens, you should have been thinking about experiences that you've already had, parents, maybe experiences you had when you were first starting to date, and try to use that information in the future to help your teens decide what would be an appropriate time for them to start looking at beginning the dating process. Okay? Let's take a look at question 3. Question 3 was, decide now what guidelines you will set for dating. Okay? Now that's a tough one, but remember, teens, that your parents, in acting as your guardians and as your advisors, have a right, okay, and a duty to make sure that they know certain aspects about your behavior. For example, they have a right and a duty to ask you where you're going when you leave the house. They have a right and a duty to ask you who you're going with, when you're going to be back, okay? These are important questions that your parents need to be able to have answers to before they decide that you would be mature enough to handle a dating situation. Well, what happens is when you aren't mature enough and you don't listen to your parents, sometimes you can end up in bad situations, such as having a date that doesn't go the way you think, okay? Maybe some dates turn out very badly. We know that that's happened in many situations. Some things may happen. You might become involved in a situation where you're encouraged to use drugs or alcohol. These are the kinds of situations that you want to avoid. And you need to establish these guidelines. Right now, don't wait. You need to establish these guidelines so that you know when you start dating, these are the things that you will be allowed to do, and that there are other things that you, what's that saying? Don't go there, right? You just don't go there. Very important. And question 4 was, how will you show sexual respect on a date? All right, now remember, we did have the points on the chastity is for everybody, okay? Which had to do with reverencing the sexual mystery, with respecting other people, and exercising restraint. Okay, these are all very, very important aspects of learning what behaviors are appropriate when you date. And I would suggest that these are very, very important guidelines for anyone who is starting to think about beginning that dating process. And also, we do have practical tips and helps for chastity handouts that we're going to give you, and those will be very helpful for both of you, both you teens and parents. Okay, and you do want to make sure that this dating thing, you need to do it right, because if not, you may wind up with a real heartbreak. Okay, so what do? How do you avoid heartbreaks when you date? You always make sure that you put the other person's interest before your own, okay? You make sure that you treat the other person the way that you yourself want to be treated. You never lead someone on. You are always honest and upfront with the other person. And you never, ever disrespect or hurt someone emotionally, physically, or spiritually. So these are all things that you can do to ensure that you will progress through these steps very well and end up with a marriage that is truly right and holy and blessed. All right, well, to follow up on that, we're going to take a look at a honeymoon skit where we're going to see how some of these things can be put into